Hey you guys, just wanted to film a quick little point. I was just sitting there thinking, the nature of this type of life invasion and life interference, it's designed to have us walking into weirdly unlivable and downright demoralizing and patronizing positions and have us nestled into a life that we don't really like, but we have a hard time complaining about. You know what I mean? Like, if I were to sit down with somebody and give them the complete factual truth as I perceive it would be stranger than fiction. It would be uncomfortable for somebody who's not on the level, who's not pure of heart, who's not highly intelligent, who doesn't believe in otherworldly things. Those are the parameters I think that would be necessary in order for me to properly explain my take on the world and everything that's happening in my arena. It is quite absurd. It's stranger than fiction ever could be. It's, in my opinion, in my humble opinion, truthful, but it's not easy to express, especially with all the factors involved pertaining to people's past, their involvement in this occurrence, as well as their lack of observation. Every little point that can be manipulated, every little angle that can be manipulated, seems to have been manipulated. There's all types of barriers in place, imperceptible and literal, that are holding things back and keeping us from progressing. It's all just meant to stifle and keep us limited and stuck, because if we're not doing anything, that's better for the powers that be. That's better for those in control of this situation to keep their control going. When a person or an entity or an institution has control of something, they don't want what they're controlling to be autonomous. They don't want you to gain autonomy or become enlightened as to what's really going on, because it would freak you out and it would cause you to think differently. We're basically entering a new earth and a new way of life that nobody wants or cares for, but they lack the will to fight back against it. They lack the motivation in speaking of it, and they're just wanting to be normal, and it never quite will be, and it'll get more weird, and quite frankly, it'll become a more dangerous world that we're living in for many reasons. People don't stop to think about their actions. They are being led into their actions. So there's not a lot of foresight or thought put into the long term. Everybody's just trying to make another day in this hell on earth, the fresh hell that we enter every day that doesn't quite change, only gets more existentially dreadful. So that's an important part to remember. But I will always stress this: to get out of your discomfort zone and to do something that challenges you, because fear as a motivator can go both ways. Fear as a motivator usually keeps people stuck and has them doing the wrong thing out of fear. But at a certain level, the fear needs to guide you, to challenge you. It needs to stand in front of you. Hunter S. Thompson had a wonderful quote about fear, where he points out fear is not something you should keep behind you. It should be in front of you, like something that needs to be killed. That's a wonderful point, because if something scares me, I want to make it scare me less. I want to understand it more so it's less frightening. So that's not an easy point for people to get, because fear is just always going to hold people back. The possibility of awkwardness keeps things held back. But I think the awkward conversation that many of us should have had a long time ago would have saved the situation had it been done on a large level. But that's just impossible. We're all out of whack. Nobody's hearing the same version of events. It's the telephone game with all the wrong details, and nobody's quite on the same page. And even if they were, they're not near each other, and there seems to be a communication barrier in the world that can't be quantified, that I'm quite mystified too. It is like voodoo. Like, we are living through a spiritual phenomenon in the background that doesn't really pertain to everybody. Those who are clued into the mix, if you know what I mean, they know. But can they speak it? Does it matter? Because we're always surrounded by people who are out of the loop, who are just living life and are trying to uphold normal, and we're trying to be progressive and still be normal. So it's a weird, delicate balance on this earth for sentient people who think and feel a lot, who are caught in the mix of other people's mistakes in their past coming back to haunt them. It's going to affect everybody, because families, even if I have done no wrong and don't have anything coming back to bite me because of this event and anything related to it, it could still affect my life if I know these people and they're part of my life. You know what I mean? So we're all connected. I just feel as if we're all disconnected just as much, which is the problem. But it's also important to remember too that it's not easy to always detect people's pain and suffering. Some people are quite resilient and don't wear their pain or their emotions, but they still have them. They're just having to play along with a world that's cold and cruel and doesn't really care. And in my case, I'm aware of that. Most people could give two shits about my struggles, and I'm aware of that. but I'm still trying to find people that can empathize and relate so we can share our struggles and show solidarity. That's how we're going to make it out of this, because things are not going to get better. They're going to get worse externally and internally, to the point where I think we're going to need spiritual healing. You know, there's going to be a lot of people with complex PTSD because of this event being so networked and organized, that it's going to take a different sort of approach to even deal with it. Like, I think we're dealing with that type of thing in the future. Epidemics of all varieties: mental health epidemic, public aid epidemic, suicide epidemic. These are all things that are happening and are going to be happening in a more profound way. But that's just something that time will tell. It's going to be impossible to quantify a lot of this, because they're not wanting those types of statistics to ever get made. And time will only tell. That's something you can only measure with time. So just remember, this type of torment and abuse is so deep down and imperceptible, and it's designed to trigger us and placate and subdue us in equal measures at the wrong time, to reduce our motivation and drive to do anything progressive or different. You know, the whole goal is to keep us bogged down, and then one day we're not here to talk about it. That's what they're hoping. So let's hopefully try to circumvent the system and do something a little bit different and see where that leads, because the idea of like-minded people coming together about a problem is not appealing to anybody who has control. You know, they don't have your best interest at heart. So take all those factors into play and hopefully run with something different. There's no clear-cut way to address this or talk about it, but just beginning a dialogue is maybe the catalyst. You never know. But anyway, later on.